My name is Ed Hardy, Chair of the Natural Resources Commission, and I am calling this public meeting to order at 7 p.m. Tonight's NRC meeting will be a hybrid in-person and Zoom meeting. We have a microphone set up on the commission table, and plans will be projected through the TV monitor. If you are presenting via Zoom, please turn on your audio and microphone when it is time for you to speak. Following the presentation by the petitioner and questions from the commission, members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment. Please identify yourself with name and address for the record. You can also raise your hand from your phone by dialing *9 and use *6 to unmute. All video screens will be turned off with the exception of any commissioners attending virtually and the current petitioner. Once the commission has acted on an application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will automatically be continued to the November 15th meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. At this time, I would ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. Bill?
Bill Kermeza.
Gary?
Gary Kleiman.
Sarah?
Sarah Goodwood.
And Nick.
Nick Pappas.
Thank you all. All right. So first item on the agenda is our public comment period. It's limited to 10 minutes, 2 minutes per person. And of course, it's really addressed towards items that are not on the agenda this evening. So does anybody have any public comment this evening at the front end of the meeting? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to, I know we don't have any minutes this evening. Commissioners, any comments generally this evening?
None for me.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on to the director's update. Delia.
So just first on my list is the Warner's Ponds. We have the public meeting that is scheduled for next Wednesday, November 8th, 7 p.m. It will be, as you know, hybrid Zoom and in person at the select board hearing room, the townhouse.
I can't hear what she's saying.
You can't.
Oh, sorry.
Can other people?
I can hear fine. If the sound is great for me.
Other people hearing her okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Who is it that is not able to hear?
I think, was that you, Donna, that's not hearing well? Okay, well, why don't,
Okay. Then the second is that there was the ORS Q&A on the dam removal at Warner's Pond, and that was well attended. I think it was a good discussion. Both sides, I think, were well represented, and there was a good you and the three of you were there. I'm sorry you weren't able to make it. So I think you saw that.
Yeah, it was very
yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good discussion.
Assabet River Bluff. Let's see, we have a little bit of an issue there with some dumping and a mountain bike trail that is being constructed. And I actually thought I had those pictures. I'm going to just try and pull them up very quickly so that I could show those to you. Let me share my screen here. These are actually, these first ones that are in this are not, this is part of the Amble art ramble. Hopefully people have had an opportunity to see that.
When does that finish?
This weekend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oops. Again. So there have been some very recent jumps and berms created at Assabet River Bluff, which, as everybody knows, is town conservation land with a CR jointly held by CLCT and the Land Trust. So you can see there's some fairly extensive digging out to construct these berms and jumps. That's another view of the other way. So, you know, I mean, that's minor obstruction, but more concerned with erosion, more digging out. I liked that picture. Some erosion that's beginning to occur. And so we're sending a letter to the abutters
Mhm.
in the neighborhood. It's probably kids.
Yeah,
Obviously not appropriate on conservation land in general. And definitely not here at Assabet River Bluff, where we are planning to put in an all-persons trail and not having bikes
mhm.
on the property. So I'll copy you on that letter when that is issued. And we had a great conservation land walk last week. We had about 9 people and yeah, it was great. We went to Oak Path Pasture and Bert and Will and I just talked about the sort of native plants in the landscape and invasives and how to identify them. And it was a good organic discussion that,
Yeah, sorry, I missed that.
yeah, we'll do more. It's good, yeah. And that is it for me.
Question on the Assabet Bluffs, wouldn't you say you will send a letter to abutters? How, just direct abutters or?
We're trying to make it
Mhm.
broadly to the community, so the
I guess-
neighborhood.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
I think if you want to get the kids, you probably want to capture that Central Street neighborhood.
Yeah.
Around the.
Yeah. We haven't figured out what that radius looks like, but
Yeah.
yeah. Not just direct butters, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Delia.
Is there any signage up already outside that area saying no bikes or anything or not?
No, the only sign that we have is the one identifying the property that's
Yeah.
off the, it's the trail that enters from the Bruce Freeman rail trail.
All right. Okay, so we have a couple of continuances this evening. Billy, you want to take that?
Yeah, happy to. So I move that we continue to November 15th, 2023 without discussion. 2 notices of intent. The first one is for 154 Southfield Road, DEP file 1371641. And the second one is for Cross Point Associates at 768 Elm Street, DEP file 1371650.
Second.
Thank you, Gary. And the vote, Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Sarah,
I,
Nick,
I,
and I am an I as well. All right, so tonight we have one new application to be heard. That is notice of intent 127 Elsinore Street, DEP file 137-1655. And who is with us this evening? Aiden.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
My name is Aiden Schlotman. I'm the representative for 124 or 127 Elsinore Street. I will share my screen here.
And that would be great. Thank you.
So this project is for the raising of the existing house that's there and the construction of a new one in its place. This proposed dwelling is going to go just barely inside the 100-foot buffer zone here, as you can see. It just barely touches it, and as well, there is going to be a proposed deck within the 100-foot buffer as well. There is an existing shed that is there as well, and that is going to be removed. The driveway is going to be reconfigured a bit, but not massively. And as well, that is going to take place outside the 100-foot buffer. Other than that, we do have tree protection for trees that are within the 100-foot and close to the 100-foot, and really just any tree that we think might be just a bit close as well. We do have a siltation barrier that is going to be kind of right up against the 50-foot no build, just for a little area there for construction to move through, and that'll be the limit of work for this project. Other than that, the closest point for the house is 94.4 feet, and the closest point that proposed deck is going to be 83.8 feet. That deck is going to be built on sonotubes, so that's no foundation there besides those sonotubes. But yeah, it's just fairly straightforward project. I'm happy to hear if the town has any comments.
Thank you, Aiden. Appreciate that. So I just had a couple quick questions, really. I see that there's a let's see, a stockade fence and a post and rail fence kind of noted, you know, at the bottom of this particular plan. Does that fencing stop on or about at the 50? I can't, it's hard to read the plan.
I believe it does. If I'm being honest, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it does. I think that's just kind of the property boundary that the two neighbors put in.
Okay, could you just clarify that for us, just going forward, where that
Sure.
might stop? That would be helpful.
Maybe just to note further that if it,
Ideally, yeah, it
Right.
stops at the 50.
it
yeah.
needs to stop at the 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And let's see, I guess just from my perch, just a couple little things. Stockpile location, obviously, you know, you're tearing the building down, foundation work, et cetera. And it's, you know, obviously it sits in the middle of the buildable site, if you will, so it'd be nice to locate where that stockpile may reside during the work.
Sure.
Well-
Yeah, I can absolutely ask. I know he is working with a contractor, so I wasn't entirely sure where he could really put it because it is a little tight.
Mhm.
The stockpiling area may need to go kind of in the backyard area
Yeah.
within 100 foot, just because obviously this lot is so tight that there's not a whole lot of room for, you know, if you put the stockpiling area in the front, it might not be able to get around very easily.
Gotcha. And I guess the only other question I really had was in the write-up or the filing, I just noticed that you know, it's gonna be reseeded as lawn. I just didn't know where that lawn was necessarily going to stop, you know, as you get close to the 50 and 25. It just wasn't demarked here. There was no landscaping, so I just didn't have an idea what that really meant by way of plan.
Yeah, so in this scenario, anywhere that was previously lawn is going to continue to be lawn.
Okay,
It's not going to be extended at all.
So
And
could you add the limits of the existing lawn onto the plan, just so we have that confirmation
sure.
as it goes forward? Thank you.
those are the few questions I had. Other questions from the commissioners?
Wasn't there supposed to be mitigation for this? And where does that take place on the?
So there's mitigation, so part of it is the shed removal.
Uh-huh.
But there does need to be additional mitigation for the deck construction
Oh,
that
yes,
is not
yeah.
accounted for. So we
Yeah.
haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen a revised plan yet.
Yeah, I wanted to hear all the comments so I can get them all done in one fell swoop here.
Yeah.
For the mitigation, because as of right now, the removal of the shed and then just the house alone, it's about at -19, so there's a decrease in impervious. Obviously, the deck would increase. Would that removal of the deck, or sorry, removal of the shed, take off some of the area of the mitigation needed for the deck?
Yep.
Okay.
So I mean, really what you need to look at is just what your net changes in the 100-foot buffer zone. And whatever that delta is, that square footage should be mitigated at 1-to-1. So, you know, just identify what the shed removal square footage is and then what the additional, plant mitigation is, trees, shrubs, the number and that, I think you know what what we typically look for.
Yep, absolutely.
So it's pretty minor, and I hesitate to even mention it, but like the location of the stairs down from the deck. Right now, you're at 83.8 feet away. If you just tuck those stairs on the side of the deck, you'd probably be 86, feet away. It doesn't really matter because it's just grass, I guess, but it is inside the buffer, and I don't know, I guess pulling it back a couple more feet from the wetland would be something to think about if the owner doesn't care.
Yeah, I can discuss that with the owner and the architect.
I mean, I think I'm the owner of the.
Oh,
Yeah, if we just can have your name and address, and you're free to join us at the table. if you like.
I'm Money Wittepin. I am the owner for 127 Elsinore Street.
Yep,
Concord.
welcome.
Thank you. So I don't know the answers to everything you asked. I have to discuss that with the architect, but we'll definitely do everything so that we don't infringe on the town's objectives.
Sure.
In terms of the stairs, yeah, I think we can move it to the side so that we could, that should be okay.
Yeah, just in general, we try to keep things as far away from the wetlands as possible. Now you have a lawn there.
Yeah, I think,
You can have the
one
structure.
thing, I know that we're building this house. We initially thought of maybe making the deck a little bigger, but if we do make it bigger, let's say that we don't go out that way, but let's say we make it bigger this way.
Slide
is that
left or right,
okay?
if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that, will that be okay?
I think it is. I think it's just a mitigation
Yeah,
issue
you
at that
have
point.
more
That's all.
mitigation.
More mitigation, okay.
Yeah.
Got it, okay, so in terms of mitigation, we'll figure out the area of the shed that we're taking out,
Correct.
Mhm.
and then anything else that. I think you may have said, I can follow up with Aiden again, I know.
Yeah,
you got it.
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
So typical mitigation is putting in, it can be invasives removal, and then.
I'm sorry,
or
invasive removal?
invasive plant
Invasive plant.
removal.
Like there are invasive plants in your wetland area.
Oh, that's listed in the.
You can do a management plan where you
Pull it up.
pull them
Take them
out,
out.
cut and dab, there are different strategies for making sure that you get rid of the.
Okay,
That's one
invasives.
approach, or, and that. I think the amount of invasives that you have on the property is more by far than the mitigation that you need.
okay,
Okay,
Got it.
so you may not want to go with that approach. If you do, we would encourage it. I think, and anybody who
Sure.
wants to do invasives removal, we're very supportive of.
is that, I mean, is it basically like wild plants or is it like basically?
Non-native,
Non-native,
plants?
that'll,
Okay,
yeah,
Like
that
Japanese
overtake
style,
everything,
Something like that.
Yeah.
Plants that just-
multi-floor
oh,
rows.
there is a big plant in the middle of the yard, we cut that big bush down, but, I think. There's like, it was obstructive and it was, it's not safe for our children, I think,
Mhm.
but I think that plant, it's these beautiful flowers that grow out of it. I'm pretty sure that's non-native to that area, we could definitely take that off.
So, yeah, so show that on the plan, and then the,
Okay,
native plant replacements
Mhm.
are, another alternative
Okay.
for mitigation.
So if you take a few feet of your lawn and turn it into native
Mhm.
wetlands plants, that's.
okay. That's it. Thank you.
yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, Bert, you have seen a lot of a brush pile, is that right? Is it you, Bert?
Yeah, there's a brush pile with no disturb zone, so that we just include a
Condition.
condition to have that.
Is that brush pile meaning like some branches?
Leaves,
Yeah, a whole
branches.
bunch of stuff that's sitting there.
Okay, yeah, we'll remove all that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great.
And I think this, when the word, you mentioned the word stockpile,
Mhm.
like they're gonna be digging,
Yes,
so is that the pile? Like,
that's
the
it.
pile?
Yeah, that's
That's the
the,
pile.
that's the general idea that you're gonna be piling up a whole lot of dirt and we just don't wanna, obviously you've got some siltation barrier there, which is great,
Yeah.
but. It's kind of good to know where you're gonna put that.
I
as you
think,
plan it.
Mr. Bushnell, he'd be the prospective contractor, he
Mhm.
mentioned that. It would be hard, that he would have to pile in that area.
Mhm.
I mean, if he piles in that area, but then cleans it up and then we
Right.
put grass. is
Yeah.
that
Oh,
okay?
yeah, that's fine. It's just part of the construction sequence. It's just, we just don't want it. I think it's good to identify where it is, so there's not, the contractor misses, perhaps
Yeah,
goes over the 50 or something to that effect.
okay,
And obviously the siltation barriers there to trap any runoff from that pile.
alright. One more question, and after we build a house, there's like a little river or stream down there, we have young children. Is it okay for us to even do, like, put fences there, or where do we not even do anything like that? Okay,
Outside the 50. So
Outside the 50.
so the do you see where the 50-foot,
Yeah.
no build zone is there? It's by
Yeah.
the silt fence.
okay.
So that would be
Where
as
we can
far
put
back
fence.
as you could put a
Fence,
fence.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Understood,
Good.
thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioners, you good?
We're good.
All right,
Okay,
all right. Is there any,
just one more thing, after
Oh.
we give, all the answers or
Mhm.
reports or update. Then will we have to come back here for the hearing to get an approval or?
So you have one more meeting to come back.
Okay.
And then, this is straightforward. We could very likely have the permit ready to be
Okay.
signed that night.
Okay,
It would have to be recorded at the registry. There's a
Okay.
10-day appeal period.
Yep.
And then you would schedule a pre-construction site visit with staff, and
okay,
we come out and meet with you and the contractor.
Okay.
Once you're ready to go.
okay, all right, thank you. You're welcome.
and just as a heads up, given that the meeting's on November 15th,
Yes.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Aiden,
Revisions in by Friday, Aiden, right?
Okay,
So, and we would need to identify the contractor as part of the permitting process, or no? We with it? Okay.
No, just when you're ready to do your pre-construction, you'll have that person on board.
Whoever you hire has to follow the plan, that's the only thing.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
What we're approving is the plan, so.
You're approving the plan for the conservation side, but we still need
Yes.
a plan for
Yes.
permitting, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
This is your permitting plan, and this is what you will submit to the building department
Yep,
to get your
yep,
building.
Oh,
permit.
got it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I was asking. All right, thank you so much.
thank you. All right. Any public comment regarding this application?
I don't see anything. Let me just, sorry, I'm gonna stop your share. I don't see any public comment.
Okay, Aiden, we'll plan on seeing you back on the 15th.
Alrighty, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you, everyone.
Really welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so I think next up is the emergency certification ratification.
Yes, so this was an emergency certification from Massport. They have a beaver issue under the runway 11 access roadway. And they installed a pipe that's too small and it's not passing enough flow. So what they're going to do is they're going to remove that existing pipe and replace it. It's a 12-inch now. They'll replace it with an 18-inch and also put in some protective fencing. So
Mm.
similar to what we've done on our properties.
Okay.
It'll be overseen by a USDA biologist. And so that's the work that I had approved them to do under an emergency cert and need a motion
Yep.
ratifying that decision.
Gary, you want to take that?
Sure, I move that we approve an emergency certification ratification for Massport at 711 Virginia Road, parcel number 4290.
Second.
All right.
Aye.
Bill, Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. All right, the next item up is an extension request from, is it Sims?
Signs.
Signs, thank you,
Signs.
Signs Development and Permitting for 1450 Main Street, DEP file 137-1408. Delia.
Thorson.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
there he
good-
is.
Good evening.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Thor Akerley, I'm a wetland scientist and registered sanitarian with the engineering office of Williams and Sparagus. Tonight representing Symes Associates Development and Permitting. Would it be helpful to share my screen here and show
Yeah,
show a plan here for the commission to look at?
refresh our memories.
Yes, it's been a while, about 3 years to be exact. So you may remember this is it was a proposed residential development off of Main Street and Highland Street in Concord. There is an isolated vegetated wetland in the rear of the property back here. Of course, not jurisdictional under the Wetlands Protection Act or the bylaw in Concord. I remember that the NRED was originally filed in 2017. It was extended in 2020 by our office at that time. Greg Hockmuth, professional wetland scientist, and Patrick Seecamp, another professional wetland scientist, both reviewed the delineation at that point. I believe Pat Seecamp was the original delineator out here. I believe a few flags were shifted around a little bit. But it's a little bit of an unusual situation where we actually didn't have a permit, for the work because it wasn't jurisdictional. But I suppose, because an isolated vegetated wetland can be, or it is federally protected, that, if they ever did want to fill it or propose to fill it, they would have to file with the Army Corps. So that's why we're here again. The project is still under litigation. They've received all the permits. The only outstanding permit is the earth removal permit, which is currently under appeal by the applicant. The permit was denied by the town. I believe that was the planning board. So that's an ongoing battle they're dealing with. So tonight we're just here to request an extension to the ORAD as they still move through that process and attempt to move forward with the project.
Thank you for the update. Any comments from the commission on this?
No.
Okay. I'm just looking for Nick. Okay. Let's see, Delia, any perspective on your end? Straightforward extension, okay. I could have a motion on the extension,
I move that we extend the order of resource delineation for 1450 Main Street, DEP file 137-1408 for 3 years.
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. And the vote, Bill?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an I as well. All right. I think the last, we got a few things left. One certificate of compliance. Delia.
So this is a certificate at 51 Coolidge Road. The notice of intent was issued for driveway and landscape improvements. Buffer zone project, site is stable, and that is good to go.
Great.
Good.
So we need a motion on that. Yeah.
All right, I move that we issue a certificate of compliance for 51 Coolidge Road, DEP file 137-1571.
Second.
All right, and the vote.
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
and I am an I as well. All right. So we move to other business. The first item up is the residents that at Thoreau, 275 Forest Ridge Road, 40B housing, 40B housing. I know,
So as the commission knows, that there was a 216 unit housing developments, 40B development
Mhm.
application that was received at 275 Forest Ridge Road. Let me see if I can share my screen here. There is a site visit that the commission is invited to tomorrow. And that is at 10 a.m. For boards and committees to review that with the Mass Housing folks. And similar to the June meeting that was held for the Novo
Mhm.
Housing Developments, the same sort of thing, so. 1 second.
What time is that tomorrow, Delia?
It's 10 a.m.
Okay.
And it's at Camp Thoreau, is that what they're?
It's at camp, yes, we were talking about that today at a meeting, and we anticipate it would be where, the driveway in where you would go to drop off kids, but I think you're gonna find the group of people if it's
Yeah.
not, if it's not there.
Yeah.
So this is an existing conditions plan of, oh, before we do that, I should have, I know people know where this is, but I'm gonna show an aerial. Yeah. Okay, so this is Route 62 here. The skating rink here, Forest Ridge Road, Minuteman Arc. This is Black Birch, and then Sweet Birch is up here.
Yeah.
And the Thoreau Club is this property here. The green is town conservation land. And the red, blue, and yellow are blazed town trails, and this black dash is an unblazed trail, so there is conservation land. This first parcel was deeded as part of the border road development. And the second parcel in here was deeded as part of the Sweet Birch. I think it was I can't remember if it was Sweet Birch or Black Birch, but one of those two developments much more recently. And so those do surround this entire Thoreau Club parcel. And then we go to up there.
Point to the site of the develop 40B. I'm sorry, I missed that.
So the Thoreau Club will be subdivided, and I'll show you that on a plan up here.
Okay.
And for some reason my cursor's not letting me get up to my, I'll just just do a stop and start again. Okay. I know why, because I'm doing it from the wrong place. I need to do it from here. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so this is the existing parcel that we were just looking at. Let's just go into Zoom. And this is the proposed subdivision of the parcels. So this is the, sorry, this is the proposed property line here. And I believe that this line here is the Groundwater Conservancy District.
So where is the housing to be placed? Oh, and the.
You have
below?
that plan, right?
Yep, we're gonna get
Oh,
there.
okay,
Yep,
okay.
sorry. So this is, well, let's just get straight to the plan that shows the development.
So it's on that upper portion,
Yeah, I
right?
see,
The
yeah.
upper subdivided
Right, so
parcel.
Right, this lower
See.
portion will remain as a thorough club. So
Yeah.
that's where they have like the dome.
The,
Yeah, they
the
have a bubble over.
three
tennis
bubbles and
courts,
the
Yeah.
central
Yeah.
building that kind of
And the
connects them
outdoor
all.
tennis courts in the back behind, you can see.
And what had been back there before?
Camp Thoreau.
Camp Thoreau, okay, yeah. we know about
Yeah.
that.
Mostly field though, couple of pools back
There's a couple
there.
pools and then there's a lot of ropes courses and things
Yeah.
like that. That are in
Yeah,
the
so
woods.
woodlands.
Yeah.
There you go.
Where's the parking plan? Here we go.
That's better.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is the, these are the buildings here. There's 3 buildings. I guess you would call these courtyards here.
Yeah.
And then, a lot of parking in here. And,
Pretty dense.
yep. So they have broken down the, let's see, it's 216, I think I said 214, it's 216 dwelling units. They are providing 397, and under zoning, it would require 432. So,
They're asking for.
They're asking-
5 relief of parking.
yeah, and I think because these may be smaller units, I'm not
Yeah.
sure what the size are, studio,
Yeah.
1 bedroom, that, that might make sense.
Julie, what does that say? Proposed parking ratio? I can't make it out of it. Is it
1.54.
1.54? Okay.
1.54, I know, these plans, it's a bad scan.
Yeah,
It's-
because
they're
you
challenging.
get closer, it gets
Yes, it gets
blurrier.
more blurry.
Yeah.
Right. So from an NRC standpoint, I'm looking for comments from the board. We are supposed to collate those comments and provide those for the select board by November 8th. This is the area that is the conservation land parcel here. So one thing to consider might be to request for this portion to be put into conservation to increase that
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
buffer.
Nice buffer.
I
Yeah,
mean, I know
absolutely.
this is maybe more planning board jurisdiction, but I mean, with PRDs, you're required to
Yes.
reserve some open space or under this new.
40B does not have any
Not required.
requirements.
Mm.
They're
No
not
requirement.
subject to any local.
Right.
Right,
But I just wonder if they're required to, under state requirements, are there any open space requirements? No, okay, so. But as a
Yeah, I-
comment, we could request some
Yeah.
open space.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that, I would suggest that you can take it right up to the edge of the parking lot,
Yeah.
because, it's bound to have some encroachment issues. That, maybe 10 feet off the edge of
Yeah.
the pavement
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, for maintenance, for
Right.
maybe snow spillage and things of that
So,
nature.
so right now, is that a road peripheral all the way around the property? What I'm
No,
saying?
that's a setback,
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah.
I guess-
So,
So it would be interesting to know where they're planning to put snow.
that's a good question.
Yeah,
Planning board.
there's no snow storage whatsoever.
So does the NRC have any jurisdictional land in this parcel?
No,
No.
none. There's no wetlands,
no
there's no
wetlands.
floodplain.
The only other thing I can think, oh, sorry, Jim, please.
Well, in the groundwater conservancy, that doesn't affect us.
That's water and sewer, because that's a ground, that's a protective layer to a drinking water well.
And the NRC has no jurisdiction over drinking water. Our water quality mandate is only for wetlands, not.
Correct. Well, I mean, there's an overlap, but from a groundwater protection district, those tend to be sands and gravels that surrounds the sort of high yield well areas. So they don't tend to have overlapping jurisdictions, but the values that are being protected or functions.
Yeah.
Are similar. But that will be a comment that the
Yeah.
water department will make. Public Works
Has
Commission.
the land already been divided? Or is this a proposal?
I don't believe that it has,
My guess is you probably wouldn't want to subdivide it until they get further in the process, and if it's reality, you can subdivide it, you know, kind of post-approval.
Is there any land beneath that could, down there? It could, I can't picture that where the conservation land, it's.
okay,
it
let me
goes
go back.
it's below that, I know.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that'd be very useful there, would it?
Let me go back to, this graphic here and just kind of zoom in a little bit. Give me 1 second. So this is kind of the area of the proposed
Yeah.
development up here. And
And there is a trail that, you know, you see the yellow trail. that
Right,
goes
right.
all the way around. So
Yeah.
there is some nice, you know.
so if you were
town
to,
open space.
you know,
We would
Nice
get that
loop.
slice.
yeah,
Yeah, if you get some of that, yeah.
you can get some of this.
Could we maybe make a recommendation about the type of lighting used?
They, and planning board would comment on that as
Okay,
well, but it
good.
has to be
Mhm.
wildlife friendly.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
rather than a slice here.
Yeah.
I'd rather see like a wedge here if there's,
Yeah,
I don't know what they're.
I would say whatever is available.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I agree. I'm just saying, like, if you think about, you know, a trail
Yeah.
network, because
Yeah.
what folks may not realize is 2229 Main Street sits up here. And the
Oh.
western edge of this is what we're proposing. Sorry,
So.
this half,
Mhm,
the western half of the, I mean, we haven't proposed anything yet, but
right,
what we're looking at in terms of reuse options is potentially preserving the western half as
Mhm.
conservation land and
eastern,
is that, yeah, sorry, eastern half.
Oh,
You know,
I
almost
see.
20
Yeah,
acres.
Yeah.
And
That would all link up.
this is all very hypothetical, but you know, there's a sphagnum bog in there, it's wetlands,
Mm.
it's beautiful
Mhm.
habitat.
Yeah, it is.
So it's very unlikely it would be developed anyway,
Yeah.
but.
Right.
If the town were to make a decision to acquire, and if it were to move forward, one school of thought would say this would be deeded to the NRC.
That's a good thought.
And so with that in mind, like I say, going back to the parcel that we're talking about, having more of a wedge, you know, sort of.
Mhm.
Because there's also, you know, in terms of making a nice trail network, you know,
Mhm.
being able to have a trail across here or. And we might be able to thicken that border a little bit on the other side.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, good thought. And Delia, so this suggests that, you know, maybe the plantings, landscaping could be more native driven than just picking from a horticultural handbook.
Yes,
Okay.
great. And if you think of anything else,
Yeah.
just email
sure.
me before next week and, the meeting has been posted as a site visit for boards and committees, so don't worry about if there is a quorum. It's all set. It's all set. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
All right, so under other business, we'll move to our next item, which is a discussion about Warner's Pond Restoration Task Force.
Yeah.
And Delia, you want to kick it off?
Sure, so we have been hearing concern from friends of Warner's Pond that the decision to remove the dam at annual town meeting 2024 is too rushed and that we should take more time to evaluate this and other alternatives. I'd say from NRC and staff perspective, we've been working on trying to restore Warner's Pond for decades. And the timeline looks like this. It's from between the early 1990s, when it was first sort of brought up as an issue of concern, to about 2012, the focus was on aquatic invasive plant management. And then when the watershed management plan was completed in 2012, I would say the focus shifted to sediment management. And that was, looking at dredging. And that's been the discussion up until last year, and we had the alternatives analysis report prepared earlier this year, which I believe compellingly lays out how dam removal is the best opportunity to meet the community goals of improved ecological health and recreational opportunities. But it is a new concept and it's a big change. from the dredging that has been previously discussed and supported by the community.
Mhm.
So it seems to make sense to slow down and allow more time for the idea to be more broadly considered and reevaluated from the perspective of a task force.
Thank you.
Good,
Yeah, and just to open up the discussion just briefly, I would concur with that. I think we've all been at the meetings. We've all heard a lot of concern from West Concord generally and the abutters, and I think it's well founded, right? That pond has been there for quite a while. I got out on the pond at the invitation of some of the abutters, which I appreciated. I'd never been out on the pond, so I have, it certainly gives me a different perspective in terms of, makes it a little bit more real versus looking at plans and
Mhm.
aerials and things of that nature. So I think that was a good tour and I appreciate that. And I think it is good to slow down. It is good to, because we also have I think we're looking at a timing issue as well, right? I know EA is working hard at gathering, specific data, putting together some, and they'll put together the 30% designs, but I think that's going to hit late February, early March, really right in front of town meeting, right? It doesn't give a lot of people a lot of time to digest that information and have a robust discussion about, what's contained in that report ultimately, right? So I think it's good for the entire community, to maybe get more involved. Thought or question, task force, are we thinking that, so 2024 town meeting is off in terms of moving any,
I think so.
I
I
think
that's,
so.
that's what,
I think that makes perfect sense, yeah.
Yeah.
because I think the task force, so we're thinking about a year period or something to that effect?
something finite.
Yeah.
So, if you look at something that is, put together.
Yeah.
Say it starts up in January and
Yeah.
it finishes up in December
Of 24.
of 24. With a recommendation, and that, allows enough time for something to be placed on the warrant,
Yeah.
if that's what the decision is at that time.
Yeah.
For 2025.
And so moving in that direction, subject to how the commissioners feel. I think it would be important for perhaps staff, yourself, to put together how that task force may be assembled, the charge, if you will, the draft charge of the task force.
Yep.
So that the commission can take a look at that. Perhaps, do you think November 15th is too early, or do you think?
We can do that.
At least for a
Yeah.
draft, and
Yeah.
certainly get it out to the public so they can take a look at it and hopefully have some good comments for perhaps next meeting if we're ready at that time.
Good.
Because it'll take some time to get it together, come up to a final disposition of the task force, and then appoint people to the task force, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So January might be reasonable timing for that. Commissioners, comments?
Yeah, I mean, my thinking is that, the goal in doing this is, I think EA is already on track to get a lot of the outstanding information, technical information that we need. But I think our goal in contemplating putting off a town meeting vote this year to, have some time for public to engage. I think, we also want to think about sort of a structured process for that engagement. So in addition to a charge and a mandate for, a task force to come to some conclusion, I think we want to think about what is the process whereby, and I know that there are a lot of, good materials out there on how to have a community dialogue and how to get a community engaged. So I would want to, just sort of look at what are some of the models for having a public dialogue and engagement that would, yield some kind of, I don't know if we would go as far as consensus, but at least to consider alternatives that could be, the basis for a more considered warrant article in 2025.
I think that's well said. And even towards, understanding as the task force is put together, right, the membership of that task force, there'll still be those disparate views, of course. So a thought maybe, maybe there's some facilitation of the task force as well, right? Because to help drive that consensus that Gary notes, I think that would be helpful perhaps, because, there's a lot to
There's a lot to
discuss, a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
And so, I think we should give further thought to that as well.
Yep.
I would also think that the task force will need some support in regard to technical issues, right? I assume nobody on the task force is going to have, a lot of technical capability in regard to whether it's dam removal or dredging or whatever the alternatives might come up with. So just a thought about how might some of those issues be supported as the task force moves forward in their discussions, in terms of
With
trying to
experts-
tease out
experts
those
in each area
particular
and-
issues.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how that might unfold, but just food for thought.
Right.
I have a,
Are you talking about in terms of like composition of the task?
No, not the
Making sure, like-
composition, but a supporting engineer, maybe a TA, but if the
Yeah.
task force comes up with alternatives and say, look, why don't we look at this? We're not the task force wouldn't be in a position to necessarily, drive
Well,
it, right? So just something to bounce some ideas off where appropriate.
Nick,
question.
Yeah, Nick.
Looking a little bit towards the end of the task force's work and what gets to town meeting, and correct my perception if it's wrong, but my sense is that town meeting is, the way town meeting and warrant articles are set up, you bring forth a proposal to do X. Either X gets approved or it gets voted down. I think to my mind, what would make more sense, and you may need to talk to Carmen Reese about this, is to present to town meeting ultimately a choice. You can do this or you can do that, right? It may come down to that. And I think you have to consult with Carmen and find out what might be the best if ultimately there is contention in the community and there are two different stark points of view on what to do. What is the best thing to present to town meeting? How can you do that, right? So that it's not just an up or down, because the problem with the up or down is, let's say there's a proposal, let's say there were a proposal to dredge, a proposal to remove the dam. If that gets voted down, it can never come up again in practice, right? Even if facts change and something happens, it's just really difficult to bring something to town meeting twice. And the same probably goes for the other side if it came to dredging. It just seems to me that there might be a better thing to present as an output from the task force and to bring to town meeting than just an up or down vote on this or that.
I'm not sure I agree, Nick, because I like to think the task force would come forward with the best recommendation for the town. So I think all that either or would go on, those discussions would go on in the task force.
You would like to think that, but this is going to be whatever small number of people, and I don't think that they are ultimately going to do a perfect job of representing the 500 or 600 people who come to town meeting that night.
Yeah, it's a
But
fair
isn't-
question.
I'm sorry, but wouldn't that be something we would hear from the task force?
Right.
In other words, they could come back and say, we want to put an option of two, or put two things up as options to town meeting.
Yeah.
Or they may come back with a very strong opinion on one or the other. So we
I'm
don't
just-
load it up, let
I think
them
it's
tell
too
us
early
what
to-
is the. what is
I'm
the-
just suggesting to bring this issue up now.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
that rather than wait until it's almost too late.
absolutely.
Right.
Although if you're hanging out there for an either or, it may not assist the task force in trying to drive to a consensus
That's
of
true.
one point, because somebody can say, okay, we'll just stay in our camp
Mhm.
and play it out to town meeting as an either or. Again, I don't know, but
I
maybe to Nick's suggestion, Carmen might have
I've
some
never seen an
good
either
thoughts
or
towards
at
that.
town meeting. Have we ever seen an either or at town meeting?
I think usually the way they structure it is they'll have. The NRC would move one article, and then if that fails, they would
Oh,
move a
that's true.
different
That's right.
article.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And if that fails, they could move a different
Yeah,
article,
right.
but generally they sequence things, but we
Yeah.
can talk to Carmen about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that probably we just raise this issue with whatever facilitator,
Mhm.
because as I say, I think they have good programs that look at these issues and they
Right.
find ways to.
And they've seen this
Mhm.
story
Yeah,
before
sure.
as well.
Right.
Right, in terms of trying to drive consensus in some manner.
Yeah.
Okay,
So let me ask this, so Delia, you would come back with a draft of charge or for this committee by November
at the next meeting.
next meeting,
Mhm.
okay.
So it'll be a draft that we can all discuss
And
and.
we discuss, and then what happens after that? Then we
I think we-
circulate the draft to anybody, or do we?
Well, I think we circulated prior to the meeting, right?
Yeah.
So to the commission public, and so
To the
we can have a good commentary next meeting, and
Okay.
then based on what we hear,
Mm-hmm.
right? Try to move to a second draft or finalize depending on the
Okay,
commentary,
that makes sense, okay.
something to that effect.
Yeah.
Okay, any other thoughts from the commission?
No,
Okay, so on this article, I am going to open it up to public comment. So if there's anybody in the public that would like to have a say, yes, please.
I do, I have a question.
Could I have your name and address for the record?
Move up there.
Please, yeah, join us.
Probably a good
You don't
idea.
have to.
because the mic-
I don't have to.
No, come on up.
Okay, well, the mic is, yeah, that's good. If
Oh, I see.
you don't mind, thanks, Chris.
Well, my name is Chris Denaro, 189 Commonwealth Avenue. And I appreciate the fact that you are saying, hey, it's time to maybe take a little more time and figure out what's going on. So my question is regarding the makeup of the
Mhm.
task force. And you guys talked about appointing people. How would that process work? How would you appoint people? Could people
I-
try to be on it? I mean, how does that work?
I think the idea is we'll put together a draft of perhaps, or staff's gonna put together a draft of, this is the initial thought about how that membership might be made up.
Mhm.
And then it'll be opened up for comment.
Okay, and would that be like basically residents that would be a part of that?
I think you, go ahead, Delia, please.
Yeah, I think it would be residents. I think there would be town staff that would be involved.
Of course,
And I think
yeah.
that there would, I don't know how many people would want to be on the committee, but if there's a lot of people who would want to think, the commission would want to see, a letter of interest or something
Okay.
like that,
Okay.
and just to review those. And I think the charge will kind of lay out what the commission is looking for
Mhm.
in terms of, representatives on the committee and what kind of interests they want people to bring.
Right,
So you know how to write the letter of interest.
right,
If
right.
that makes sense.
That does make sense. And so before the group was finalized,
Oh, yeah.
then there would be more discussion.
Oh,
about
yes.
that.
Oh, yeah,
I think
absolutely.
at our November 15th meeting, we would be talking about all of these details.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not acting on it, just.
And I don't think there'll be
Right,
any,
right, just kind of laying it out,
And there'll
saying
be
this is
no-
what we're thinking.
yeah, and no specific people. It'll be, for example, maybe. I see, is Mark out there? So maybe it's, the select board liaison, maybe on the committee, for example. or
Right.
Historic, or again, so just trying to get those buckets lined up so it's an appropriate representation.
Okay, yeah, I was just trying to understand.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Thank you.
David, for a task force in general in the town, do you need select board approval?
To form.
No,
the
this
NRC
would be-
does not.
I know
Yeah,
you can.
yeah.
okay,
This is just
I mean, the select board can also. If
Sure.
they wanted to form a task force, they could do
Right,
that.
but
Yeah.
NRC is one of the.
We can do it, yeah.
Yeah,
So Trails Committee, Haywood Meadow Stewardship Committee,
Oh, okay.
the dog regulation subcommittees.
Yeah.
There's precedent.
off you go.
I was confusing between the word committee and task force, so yeah, okay.
Okay, is there any further comment from the public on the task force? Okay, seeing none?
I'll make a comment, sorry.
Oh, yes, Mark, please.
Yeah, so I'm glad to hear that you're going down this path. I think that it does make a lot of sense to solicit more community input and to process what ideas there might be out there around how to do it. Yeah, in answer to the previous person's question, I think the select board would ideally prefer to keep this within the scope of the NRC mandate and let you guys take the lead on it, but obviously if you need help from me or any of us, we'll be glad to do that.
Great, we'll take all the help we can get.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. All right. So with that, I think we're moving to our last item on the agenda this evening, which is an administrative approval. 65 College Road. Delia. Or Bert.
Please.
Yeah, so 4 trees in total, 2 are very much dead, can't even identify them anymore. 2 are alive, but they're not in great shape, leaning towards the house. So hazard tree removals, I spoke with the homeowner about weed and snags with the dead trees, and then replanting it's a really steep slope where they're on, so we thought trees maybe not the best idea, so we talked maybe replanting some native shrubs on the slope, and he's very open to that.
Great.
So,
Was he okay with the snags?
yep.
Oh, that's
Oh,
great.
good.
That's awesome.
Yep. One of them, we talked about not leaving a snag. It's basically in. It's not a patio, but it's like
Oh,
a
yeah.
crushed stone. It's like coming right.
Oh,
up.
sure.
So not that one, but the
Yeah, yeah.
rest.
Mhm.
Well, that's great. He's willing to do that.
Yeah.
So appreciate that. Okay. I think with that, we are adjourned.
Oh, good.
Thank you.